is Tanya Eddy with Flying Dog Studio. In this video, we're going to take a look at my Woodland fairy, and a little disclaimer, when the video starts out, you're not going to see myself sketching this piece. I am starting with the final drawing because this was something new to me, and I created several pieces, and unfortunately I deleted the video on the drawing app that had myself sketching it out, so I'm so sorry, but I did have the forethought, thankfully, to save the final drawing, so you will see that at the very beginning. Now this is based on some work by Aaron Blaise. If you don't know Mr. Blaise, I'm sure you know his work. He used to work for Disney and worked on movies like Lion King and Brother Bear. And I love his stuff, so I wanted to learn some of his technique and apply it to this piece. And this is something I really enjoy doing, and I plan on doing again in the future. So in this video, we're going to start out with a drawing, and it is time-lapse, but we're going to stop in between, and I'm going to come back and tell you how I did some of the things that you're seeing in the time-lapse. So it's a little bit different video, like I said, than what I've done before, but we're going to take a look at different kinds of layers, whether they are overlay or a multiply layer or just a normal layer. You're going to take a look at things I've never done before, like dropping in photos. So all new techniques, things that they use in animation, and I was just really interested in learning how to do that. So have fun with this. I hope you'll follow along, and thanks for watching. All right, we are starting out with our final drawing, and I knew I wanted her to be a woodland fairy, and in order for it to be the right setting and the right lighting, I had to look for a photograph online that matched up with that. So that took a while, a little bit of research. It took a while, but I found the perfect picture, or at least I thought it was a perfect picture. You're going to see that our light source is coming. I knew I wanted the light source to come from the upper left-hand corner, and you're going to be able to see in the photograph it does do that. Now, I don't want to just use someone's photograph. I only use a part of it, just a part of the photograph, and I fuzzed it out so you can't, it doesn't look like the original photograph. So I'm going to show you what I have here. This is my background. And you can see part of it right here. This is like my midground. I took part of it and isolated it, and I did not do the blur on it quite as much as I did the rest of the piece. And if you're gonna blur a piece, I'm gonna show you how to do that. We are on that layer. And when I inserted it, it wasn't blurred out at all. Of course, it was absolutely crisp and clear, but I only wanted the colors and shapes. That's all I wanted from this piece. I just wanted to give her the feel that she's in the forest, because the forest is not the focus, she's the focus. So if you come up here to what I like to call the little magic wand, and you come, there are all kinds of blurs, but we're going to use this first one right here. And you just slide your finger along, and you can see how it gets more blurry, less blurry. You can control that blur. This is what felt good to me, so I just kind of kept it at this. So that's our background. And then on top of that, I have something called a base color. And we have our drawing at the very, very top. That's important. That's where we want that drawing right now. We want to be able to see it. Later on in the piece, you're going to see the drawing kind of disappears because I keep turning down the opacity of the drawing because it gets in the way. Once you start to lay in the colors, your final goal is to get rid of the drawing. So it will get in the way once you start laying down the colors, trust me. But I wanted to lay in a base color, and I'm going to show you the color palette I chose. So this is my base color. This was, I think, about Forest Things, and it's kind of a local color in here. You can kind of see it up here in the trees. So I pulled that out, and I made that my base color, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do with that. Then I have kind of a skin color. I have some colors for just to give her some highlights and some depth and some shadows. And then I have kind of a medium shadow color, and again, all shadows and highlights. This is some of our deeper or darkest shadows. And you're gonna see as we go along the color of her hair. I'm really gonna lean on this to get some of the depth in her hair. So first thing I did, whoops, sorry about that. First thing I did was come to this local color right here, our very first color. This is our base color. And I'm gonna lock this. Every time you do something, lock a layer. Otherwise, you'll be like me and color on the wrong layer for 30 minutes before you realize. So I'm coming to the base color. We'll turn this on, and you can see that I have filled her entirely in with that color. And the brush that I'm using is just like a soft round brush. You have, I don't know why I keep doing that. You have in your brushes, you can find this in like the airbrush. These are some brushes. I like Aaron Blaze, and so these are some of the brushes that he had that I bought right off of creatureartteacher.com. He has those on there, but you have like hard and soft brushes right here in your brushes. If you are using the Procreate, I use Procreate on iPad. But I've filled this completely in. And then I'm wanting to put shadows and color on top. And I want to put it right on this base color. But I don't want to color on my outside the lines where I'm coloring on the background. So this is something that I use, and it's extremely helpful. If you will tap on here, and if you are using Photoshop or some other drawing app, I'm sure you have it on there as well. It's called an alpha lock. So I hit alpha lock, and what alpha lock will do, this is my skin color. I'm going to come in here and let's make sure I have hard brush. Okay. I'm going to come here and I'm going to color, and I can color on here, and notice I'm coloring all over the place. I'm not coloring outside of her lines. Now I can color all the way over here. I don't want the color there, but I can color right inside. And if I want to change I used this color for her hair, starting out with her hair. I can color just all over the place with this up here, and it doesn't go outside of the line. What Alpha Lock does, it allows you to color on top of the pixels that are on your piece. And if there aren't any colored pixels already there, it's not going to color there. So I don't have any colored pixels outside of this. So it's only going to allow me to color on my colored pixels already. Now, when you're coloring it with that base color, my original base color, I do have to take my time and kind of clean up around the edges. But once I do that and I put on the Alpha Lock, I don't have to worry about that anymore. Okay, at this point we have all of our base colors in, and we're going to want to lay some shadows on top. So what you're going to need to do is to come to your base layer, and you're going to add a shadow layer in. Now this shadow layer is going to be multiply. And if you are in Procreate, you're just going to tap on that little, well, when you start out, it's going to be an N, but you're going to tap on that little letter. Right now it's an M, and you see we can change these to the different things we need. We can go all the way through these ranges, and I think I've shown that before in other videos, but we want multiply. So I'm going to show you the difference between multiply, normal, and overlay. So I'm going to pick a color up here. For her hair, I believe we had this color. Let me see if that's correct. Yeah, that's pretty close to it. I may have gotten off a little bit. I'll check this color. No, this is the color I want right over here. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to show you the difference right over here on this side. If I am doing a normal layer with that color, you're going to notice I'm not going to change colors. I do have students when we are doing projects in class, and I'll ask them, because I can tell their colors a little off, and they'll say, what do you have that layer on, or what do you have your brush set on? And they'll say multiply. I'm like, no, we don't want multiply. In their minds, multiply means I'm going to get done faster. And that's not what multiply does. So I'm going to start off on a normal layer, and you can see same color. I'm not going to change the colors. Oh, let's take a look at it over here. And there is that color on a normal layer. Now I'm going to go to a multiply layer, same color, and I've got it on multiply. Take a look at the difference in those colors. What multiply does is it kind of multiplies all those pigments, and it's going to allow me to get what I want down on here, to get the right color. I can stay within the same color, but just kind of change the hue on it. Now, if I want to go to overlay, what an overlay layer does is it adds some heat to it. So same thing, same thing. Something else you're going to notice, again, I haven't changed the opacity of my pencil. I haven't changed the type of brush that I'm using. Same thing, I'm going to zoom in here so that you can see. This was on the normal layer, and that normal layer, I can't see through it. When I take a look at this one up here, and I'm hoping you can see that in there, I can kind of see the background of the tree in here. So we're getting a little more transparent. That was the multiply layer. And then when I take a look at the overlay, notice how transparent it is. I'm going to use this overlay in some of the areas when I am putting some bright on her face. It's going to allow me to put all of the highlights on her face and still not lose that skin color underneath. I won't have to come over here and mess with any of the opacity on my brush. I simply make the layer an overlay layer, and then I have all the brightness I need. I don't lose the skin color underneath. And the same thing with the shadows. I'm not losing. You can see I still have the shadows underneath, or I still have the skin color underneath, and I get to keep those shadows. It's transparent enough. You can do that. Now you can come over here and change the opacity of it if you would like to on your brush, if you want to kind of ease into it. Now I will tell you, the brush that I used on this, I did use, I'm going to come to my painting brushes. If you were on Procreate, painting brushes, and I used the Gouache. I liked, now Mr. Blaze, I've watched him do this, a lot of his videos. He likes to use a soft round brush. And again, that's in your airbrushing. It's just the, like the soft airbrush. And I don't like working with that brush. So everybody's different. Use what works for you. Don't worry about using what somebody else uses if you can't get the same technique. So if I am, and I'm going to just turn off the shadow layer here and go ahead and make this a multiply layer so that I can show you what I'm doing on here. This is the brush that I use for the shadows. Now, let me turn that up a little bit. I've used it for something else, and so it's kind of play with the size, depends on the amount of area. We don't have hotkeys when you're working on this. If you're working on a Wacom or some other device where you're using your keyboard, you have those hotkeys and you can go back and forth and change the size and you know, you can change opacity and everything else, but I don't have that, so I have to change it right over here with my handy dandy little thumb on my left hand. So I'm over here coloring, and if you're coloring along and you get this overlap and you think, oh, I have messed up, that's terrible, I'm gonna have to start all over again. Don't start all over again. Come to your blending tool, go to the same kind of brush. That was a painting brush. We've got the gouache. Turn that opacity down quite a bit. You don't want it up here. That's going to smear it all over the place. You're just wanting to kind of blend out the edges, and I'm going to zoom in so you can see this. And I'm kind of moving in circles and just kind of play with it until you get the right blending. There we go. We don't want to lose the texture. That's one thing I don't like about the round brush. It has no texture to it. And it's kind of like coloring with a magic marker. When you color and you color over the same area, you get that overlap, and you'll get that with this brush too. But for me, it's easier just to come back in with the blending brush and change the size and the opacity of it, and you can come in and work in circles and kind of blend those things out. And then you can come back in with your brush and go back over areas. You can change the size of it and get right in here where you need to fill in. And it takes a little practice. I'm doing it kind of quickly here for you. It takes a little practice, but you can move back and forth, and you can see how smoothly this has come out over here, and that's what I wanted. Now this has some freckles on it, and you're gonna see that later. You can use different brushes for that. Again, I have a brush from Mr. Blaze's stuff, but you can come into your spray paints and you have splatters and flicks, and you can tap on that brush and change some of the elements of it to make it what you need it to be. So that is what I'm doing when I am using the different layers. I'm actually using a very small palette. I'm just using normal, multiply, or overlay to get what I need. now we have come to the part that was completely foreign to me. This is a new technique I've never used before, and it's called photo dropping. And we're gonna drop a photo in here and use, and actually do this several times during the piece. You're gonna see me drop a photo in for the eye. I'm gonna use grass to get the hair texture, and I'm going to use actual leaves to come down here, my little sketches of leaves. For the bodice of her outfit, I'm actually going to drop in leaf texture and then come back and shade on top. So what we're going to do right now though is take a look at the eye. And again, this was so different, but I love it. I'm going to use it even more. So I tuck my daughter and put her in front of a window, took a picture of her, made sure I had the same pose and the same lighting. And now I'm just gonna lift her eye and put it right into the piece. So the first thing you're gonna do is I'm gonna come up here to, I call it the little ribbon tool. It's gonna allow me to lasso the part of her that I want. I'm just gonna come all the way around here. We're gonna erase some of this and we're gonna do a lot to it. And then I come to the little arrow next to it and move it out of that. And I'm gonna come to my eraser, make sure I have the hard eraser. I'm going to erase this off. Now, if you have Photoshop, you can go over to a picture, lasso what you want, and drop it right into your piece. We can't do that. If we can do that, I'm unaware of it in Procreate. So this is a way that you can do it. I'm going to come back into that layer, hit that little N, and I'm going to reduce the opacity so I can kind of see through it. Then I'm going to come back up here to the little moving tool. I'm going to move it up here. Put it right over her eye. I'm going to reduce it down and move it up. I'm going to change the angle, and I'm going to actually, let me zoom in so you can see that a little better. I'm going to increase that opacity just a bit. I do apologize if you are hearing road noise. We live near a school, and I believe that is school traffic you are currently hearing. So let me move it in here. I'm trying to line up her lid line with the lid line that I've drawn. And I kind of cheated a little bit when I drew this picture. I already had my daughter to stand and pose for me. So I had her eye as a reference, and I just used that as for a reference. That's why it's fitting in here so well. That's because I used her as a reference. So I think I'll make it a little bit bigger. I think I went down a little too far. Put that in there. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to come back up here and I'm going to turn up the opacity. Now the color is totally off and we have some extra things we don't need. So I'm going to go to my eraser and I'm going to go to a soft blend eraser. I want that soft eraser, and I'm going to turn down the size, and I'm going to come in because you can see this was part of the background. Let me turn that down a little more. This is part of the background from the photo. I don't want that, so let's get rid of that. And then I'm going to turn this up and turn the opacity down just a bit. Turn the size up a bit. I'm going to go around the edge and kind of erase what I don't need. I'm going to go in as close as I can to her eye, leave her eyelashes, leave all the features we need. We're going to kind of mesh this in with everything else. So we don't want to lose the whole thing. I don't want to go straight down to the eyeball. I'm going to keep some of her skin, but I'm going to get rid of stuff that I don't need. So we're just working it. And I did, in the video, you'll see one part where I come back and I actually lasso this eyebrow. And I'm going to angle it a little bit, bring it down a little bit, make it a little bit shorter. And then I come back to my eraser and I get rid of some of it because it was just longer than what I wanted for this particular piece. So let me zoom in again. I'm getting rid of the rough edges. And you can color back over the top of things later to kind of mesh in those edges, but you'll see how that's kind of blending in. Now again, the colors are not quite right. So what I'm gonna do, there we go. Let me bring her out there so I can see a little bit better. I'm going to come into my magic wand and I'm going to go to the hue and saturation, and I'm going to change the saturation a little more saturated. Whoops, sorry, wrong way. I'm going to take down the brightness just a bit. You see how that's fitting into her skin? Increase the saturation a bit more. Turn down that brightness. There we go. All right, now I can come back into my blending tool, and remember, I have it set up the same as my paintbrush, which is gouache. And I'm going to turn the size down just a bit and turn the opacity up just a bit, because I want to come in here and kind of blend this into her skin. Now remember, this is a layer all into itself. So when you're blending, you're not really blending another color with it, you're blending that white background into it. So it's really fading it out. And that's what I want to do. And I want to get in here, change just a little bit. You kind of have to push all of these things. And like I said, you can really mesh it in once you get, and I'm going to go back to the eraser, turn that down just a bit in size. Come on down. There we go. Thumb's not working. All right. Erase a little bit more. It's a little bit too much white in here for me. We've got a lot of shadow in there because of the forest. And when she was modeling for me, of course, we weren't in a forest. We were actually in our dining room facing the window. And I had some indirect light on her. Come up here. I'm doing this kind of quickly for you, but you get the idea how that just kind of meshes into the whole thing. And then let me go ahead and turn, I don't think I have the opacity all the way up. There we go. There's the opacity. Come back in now that I have the opacity up, and I think I'm going to change saturation, brightness. There we go. We can change these back and forth and kind of get what fits into the piece. And there's going to be more color added. We're going to add some pinks to her and some yellows to her. And you'll see in some of the video where I come over the top and I'm actually going to be coloring on top of this. And I will zoom in on that in the time lapse and slow it down so that you can watch that process. But that gives you the idea. I did the same thing with her hair, and I did the same thing with the leaves down here on the bodice. we have our woodland fairy creature. She was a lot of fun to create. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, could you please give me a thumbs up and maybe subscribe? That would be great. If you have any questions about this process, please feel free to ask those below. I'll try to include these little snippets of videos in between into separate videos on my site so that you can, on my channel, so that you can reference those if you have a question about it and won't have to watch this whole video again. But thank you again for watching, and happy creating.